What's going on, everybody? Happy Taco Tuesday. Sam Shapiro back here with more of your Heat latest on FanArc. We're almost at 200 subscribers, so please drop a sub on the channel. And of course, don't forget to like this video. We got great content right here Monday through Friday, all pertaining to your Miami Heat. And today we're going to start off with Norman Powell. The man is balling out in on a big international stage for the Miami Heat, dropping 34 points in a dominating win versus Costa Rica on August 9th. He finished the game with 34 points, 3 steals, 2 assists and a rebound, but in 39 minutes of play, scored 5 of 9 overtime points to seal the win, 80-76 in a 2027 FIBA World Cup pre-qualifiers game over Costa Rica. And he was the only Jamaican player in double figures in that game. So exciting to see a player that Miami has been so excited about, expressing that he's now part of, Heat Nation going into this season, playing at such a high level on an international stage like this. So hats off to Powell for the tremendous scoring performance, and hopefully it's a little bit of a taste of what hopefully we're going to see from him coming up this season. Drop in the comments if you could see him going off for some 30-point bursts like this in, some competitions throughout the regular season. I think it's definitely promising, coming off arguably his best season in his career last year with the Clippers, scoring a little bit over 21 points per game on close to 50% shooting from the field, and just the absolute efficiency from him in this game. Also, he was 9 for 17, including 5 of 9 from 3. Really exciting to just see him balling out for the Jamaican national team, and especially helping them, really being the driving force and helping seal a clutch time win, in a FIBA pre-qualifying game. So hats off to Norman Powell. Great performance from him, obviously, and as a Heat fan seeing this news, it's just very it's a very exciting, it's another thing to be excited about with the season less than 11 weeks away now. But moving over to another player also balling out on an international stage for Miami. This one might not be as expected as Powell, but Simone Fonteio also balling out for the Italy national team in a EuroLeague exhibition game also on August 9th. They played against Latvia, and Kristaps Porzingis also suiting up for that team. So it's not like he wasn't playing NBA level competition to some extent, scoring 21 points, also decently shooting well from beyond the arc, 3 of 5 shooting in that game. Again, just very kind of to the same beat as Powell. Very exciting to see Fonteio playing at a high level on an international stage, although I wouldn't say it's a major pre-qualifying game that he was, netting these points in. 20-point bucket from Fonteio. I think a lot of people looked at the Duncan Robinson trade thinking, Fonteio's not going to be at least the same caliber piece that Norman Powell was, kind of over, just in the grand scheme of things, that efficiency-wise, he's not going to be balling out, scoring 15, 20, 25 a game necessarily off rip. So hopefully this is just a taste of some of the best games that Fonteio can squeeze out over the course of this regular season. Drop in the comments if you think we're going to see some at least decent three-point shooting and hopefully some double-figure 15, 20-point pieces like this over the course of the regular season in the NBA. I think a game like this, even though just an exhibition game, shows that he is capable of playing at a high level despite maybe not doing so during his time on the Pistons. But anytime a player is able to go off like this, just with international competition, it shows, one, NBA talent is absolutely different, and two, it's promising that bringing a guy like that in a rotation, has ability like this, that can perform at a high level like that on any professional playing field. So again, very promising and very exciting to see not just Fonteio, but also Powell, like I had mentioned before, just able to play at a high level and help their team, help contribute to their team's performance on the field. So again, hats off to Fonteio for the 21-point performance, shooting very efficient from beyond the arc, and against some decent competition like Porzingis as well in that matchup. Now, moving over to another topic I saw that Bleacher Report was talking about, was they had kind of mentioned their top 5 teams that have had really good their top 5 teams who have really navigated through this offseason the best in Miami. They didn't necessarily rank a particular order. They kind of just listed, team number 1, team number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Miami being the third team that they mentioned on that list, which I thought was pretty interesting. They were compared to the Hornets, the Cavs, the Thunder, and the Wizards, all who had, I wouldn't say very similar off seasons to Miami in regards to OKC really just being able to solidify their the main core that was able to help them bring home the title this year. And a lot of people also kind of arguing that OKC might have gotten bailed out just from Halliburton going down in Game 7. But I think either way, OKC was definitely the more talented team in that series and was deserving to take home the NBA title this past June. But in the grand scheme of things, I think OKC ranked pretty high because they were able to solidify that big three of J-Dub, Chet Holmgren, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the foreseeable future, paying all three guys a boatload of money. But it looks like those three guys aren't going anywhere anytime soon, and as long as they can stay healthy, I mean, it seems like OKC is going to, I wouldn't say it's a guarantee that they're going to run the West, but it's pretty promising. So to see them kind of in the same talks of Miami in terms of off-season efficiency and the moves they were able to navigate throughout the season, or the off-season rather, I just think it's interesting that the Norman Powell trade obviously was huge because Miami not having to give up a lot for a 20-point scorer, which is really what Miami was looking for, and unfortunately they were trying to get that in Terry Rozier, trading him from Charlotte to try to pair him up with a guy like Jimmy Butler, but unfortunately that didn't really work out and wasn't able to kind of mend the deteriorating relationship between him and Pat Riley. So hopefully that Powell trade will kind of make amends, at least in that front. Not saying that Jimmy Butler's ever going to come back, but will at least kind of bring in a 20-point per game scorer, or that's a player that's capable of playing at that caliber and will hopefully continue to play at that level instead of kind of digressing like we've seen Rozier during his time in Miami. But also interesting to kind of see the Wizards in navigating in there. I know they had a solid draft, but I just think that in the grand scheme of things, especially the Hornets, they also had a very good draft as well. And I think that also contributed a lot to why these teams were ranked there as well. Cleveland, being able to maintain a lot of their pieces as well, also having a good offseason. And unfortunately, because of how their playoff bout kind of went this year, kind of getting upset by the Pacers, it's very promising that they were able to kind of keep their piece together. But I think that it's interesting that these teams were kind of in comparison to Miami, especially because Miami also able to re-sign some solid pieces as well that can add some depth to their front court and mainly their back court, but also mostly just contributing to how the backcourt is hopefully going to look this season. I mean, the front court's looking very promising in Bam and Ware, and I think they still have a little bit more work to do in the front court, but I think making sure that Wiggins is not trying to dip out anywhere anytime soon, and then signing a guy like Myron Gardner who can hopefully play both sides of the ball pretty well, but also can kind of fluctuate between the backcourt and the front court. It's definitely going to help Miami, and I think that being able to maintain pieces that are capable of developing into, I wouldn't say necessarily star players, but focal, rotational players that are going to really help this team get over the hump, be a playoff team, hopefully make a run, even if they're not, a top 5 or 4, even if they're not in that top 5 conversation. I think that at this point, the teams that they were comparing to either did really well in the draft, either were or good at maintaining some pieces that helped them kind of make longer runs, especially during the regular season. And because of how Miami was not really in that conversation for any of it, kind of just making some focal trades, some focal re-signing, and then also making a little bit of noise in the draft and hopefully signing some two-way guys that'll be able to develop. I think that's why Miami was in this conversation for Bleacher Report. So drop in the comments. I know a lot of you have been saying this is one of the best off seasons Miami's had in recent years, and I think especially because of the Norman Powell trade, that definitely puts them in the conversation for it. But drop in the comments what you think, if you would say Miami had a top 5 offseason compared to the rest of the teams in the NBA. And if they, made more efficient moves than a lot of the other teams in the league, like Bleacher Report obviously was reporting this earlier this week. And now moving over to another interesting article that I saw over the course of today. It was kind of talking about Miami potentially getting the last laugh over Jimmy Butler after deciding to leave Miami and going to Golden State. Ultimately, he was hoping to get Miami over the hump and bring them home an NBA title, unfortunately falling short in two finals appearances, one against the Lakers and one against the Nuggets in recent years. So going to Golden State, I know a veteran player like him going along with Draymond Green and Steph Curry are trying to squeeze out whatever talent they have left, which for Curry is still going to be some time, but Draymond is, I would say, kind of hanging on by a thread a little bit. But, the guys, they're not young. They're all kind of, mid-30s ballpark, and they're really, I think, trying to maximize their opportunity to potentially make a title run in the Western Conference. At this point, the play-in tournament has kind of become the Curry Invitational, and even if the Warriors are not a top 5 seeded team, kind of in a similar way to Miami, they always find a way to kind of squeak their way into the playoffs, and playoff Curry is just absolutely deadly, as we've seen time and time again. So I think Butler is really trying to make a run with Steph Curry in whatever kind of postseason hopes they can kind of salvage up at this point. And I know Golden State, another priority they have in addition to Jonathan Kuminga is Al Horford right now, a veteran player that could definitely bring some guys together in the locker room. I'm not saying he's going to help Golden State necessarily get over the hump to win a title, but if you want a veteran guy that can play at somewhat of a decent clip, he's still a big man that can score in double figures, which is exactly what Miami needs. So if Golden State is going to hold out and wait for Jonathan Kuminga to make a move in terms of trying to get Horford to ink up a deal, Miami could jump on that right now, especially because they're looking for a piece to add in their front court. I'm not saying that Al Horford's going to be a difference maker and make Miami a title contender over Golden State at this point in time, but depending on how Khalil Ware develops, if Tyler Herro continues to ball out and Bam Adebayo continues to be a big piece in the front court, adding a guy like Al Horford could definitely help Miami make a deep postseason run and really bring some of those young guys that Miami's trying to develop in the locker room together and help them build longevity in terms of being talented players that could help Miami maybe in 2 or 3 seasons from now get to a place like the conference finals again or the NBA finals. It's not necessarily going to be next year, but taking a guy like Al Horford away from Golden State because they're hanging out for Kuminga, this could be a prime opportunity for Miami to do that, just because Golden State kind of holding out on maybe trying to ink Al Horford, who also is kind of looking at retirement right now as well, trying to get a young guy like Kuminga to stay in the Bay. Drop in the comments if you think this could be Miami maybe getting the last laugh over Jimmy Butler, because it would kind of be taking away title hopes for Jimmy Butler in hopes that when he was thinking he would team up with Steph Curry, he'd be going to Golden State to hopefully win a title there because he couldn't do it in Miami, and there wasn't necessarily superstar power he was getting playing in the 305. So I thought that was kind of an interesting angle to look at it. Miami taking Al Horford away, maybe taking another veteran guy away from Golden State that could, bolster up a guy like Kuminga and other pieces that are trying to rally around this Golden State team that has some veterans that could potentially have, some sort of leeway to helping them make some sort of run that maybe some people are kind of overlooking right now. I think it's an interesting debate. I'm not saying Al Horford is going to be a difference maker for Golden State winning an NBA title, but Curry and Butler definitely have a Batman and Robin dynamic going, and bringing in glue veteran guys like Horford is definitely what would help that team if they're not going to acquire any more superstar power. And bringing a guy like Horford to a team like Miami can only bolster the young guys they're trying to develop and helping them try to potentially make a run late in the postseason as well. Just an interesting take, I thought, based on an article I saw. So drop in the comments what you think if adding Al Horford to either of those teams could maybe bolster a late postseason run for any of those teams. Again, not saying Horford's going to be a difference maker in helping those teams win an NBA title, but I just thought it would be a last laugh Miami kind of taking away veteran experience from Golden State that could kind of help rally the troops a little bit and maybe give Jimmy Butler some hope that Golden State would win a title at this point before Miami. But again, kind of too early to tell, and I think it could really go either way in terms of who could maybe win a title at this point first. But Miami being younger and Golden State now getting older, it definitely, I would say the fates are leaning a little bit towards Miami in maybe a few seasons from now. But I can't really see either team making the NBA Finals next season with these two rosters they're having, whether Al Horford's on either team. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Once again, drop a like on this video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for great daily content. Once again, I'm Sam Shapiro, and thanks so much for joining us, and have a great Taco Tuesday, everybody.